Hello YouTubers and welcome to another video. Today's theme for this video is the fact that during the 1990s I bought lots of CDs and I like the 90s as a decade for music. Many of my favorite records were actually issued in the 90s, and as I said, I bought them on CD because from, well, let's say from 1991 to at least 2006 or 2007, I bought most of, well, almost all my so-called new records with new music on CD because, well, in some cases, well, during many of these years, you couldn't even get hold of the vinyl issues, and in some cases the vinyl issues didn't even exist. But in later years, I've been less interested in CDs, and I've been trying to get hold of some of my favorite records of the 90s and early noughties that I usually had on CD on vinyl instead. And I thought I'm going to show you some old digital favorites that I have on vinyl, and it's very difficult really because since, well, in the fact that, well, sometimes there were actually vinyl editions pressed of these records, but often in a very small quantity, and they were very hard to find in the stores, and they were hard to get hold of, and they didn't sell that much, which has of course made them some sort of, well, collector's editions today, and to find the original pressings from the 90s, it's difficult, and they are often very. The first record is a record that was issued in 1998 by the French electric pop duo Air, and it's this one, Moon Safari. I was intrigued by it when I first heard it, especially the hits Kelly Watch the Stars and Sexy Boy, and some years later I got hold of it on vinyl, and I've been buying. It's a funny thing because back then this was the only Air album that I bought on CD, but then I kind of forgot about them, even though they were still issuing new very good records. But well, not that long ago, not that many years ago, I've been getting hold of these old Air issues on vinyl. I'm not sure whether this is a reissue or not, actually. It might be an old original. I haven't really looked into it, or rather I've been trying to look into it, but I haven't been that lucky finding the information, not even on Discogs. Anyway, it's the first album as far as I know, and I've been buying many of their others as well. So that's Air. Now over to a record that I know is an original from the time. It is Murder Ballads with Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds from 1996. I bought this back then because I found it on the record list, and I was very fond of the songs that were played on TV, on MTV, the songs from this very unique album back then. And when I found out that it was available on vinyl, I thought, well, why not? So I bought it. I don't think it was that much more expensive than the original CD version, maybe a bit, but I thought, well, why not? And it was a good move, of course, because they are very rare today, and they have been reissued, and I think there have been bootlegs also, but this is an original from the time because I bought it back in 1996, perhaps 97. I've showed this before and talked about this in a previous video many years ago, but that's another. So this is not really following the rule because I didn't buy this on CD back then, but it's still an old favorite from the CD era. Okay, I'm very fond of Elvis Costello's 90s, and I did buy all his records on CD back then, and in later years I've been trying to get hold of them on vinyl, and of course music companies like Music on Vinyl have kindly reissued them on vinyl, so I'm going to show you two here, even though I have others as well. I do not have the record that he did together with Burt Bacharach, but I hope that either it will be reissued, or maybe it has been reissued but I've just missed it. But these are two other favorites from the 90s that I now enjoy on vinyl. The Juliet letters with the Brodsky Quartet, originally recorded in 1993, and All This Useless Beauty from 1996. I have some others too, but I thought it was enough to show them here. They were big favorites that I listened to a lot of the CD player back then.
Up and down, and you little swines will get nothing. Though I almost is on his skin and his station.
Those were reissues. Then over to a record that isn't a reissue. It is actually a vinyl edition from back then. I think it's from 1994. Yeah, it's the Cranberries. No Need to Argue, and I found this, believe it or not, in my former hometown, Luleå. And I was really surprised when I found it, because first of all I didn't even know it existed on vinyl, but it did, and it's the original from back then. So somebody probably, it has the sticker from HMV here. The price £8.99, so £9 back in 1994, bought on HMV store, probably in London, or any HMV store in United Kingdom. I really don't know where they are, but anyway, I was very happy to find this because I bought it on CD back in 1994. Was very fond of it, especially the two most famous songs, "Ode to My Friends" and "Zombie." They were really great videos on MTV. During these years, those years, I watched and listened to MTV quite a lot because I thought it was a good generation for pop and rock music back then. The early 90s, well, the whole 90s really, the whole 90s. It was an exciting time musically, more exciting than the 80s when I really grew up. Okay, another old master. Well, Bob Dylan isn't typical for the 90s, but he made some really good records in the 90s that have been problematic to find on vinyl. But of course, Columbia and Sony is in deep collaboration with the Music on Vinyl label, so of course this was reissued like many of the others, Time Out of Mind. I think I have most of his 90s issues now on vinyl, but this is my favorite. I think he made many good records in the 90s, but this is my favorite. Time Out of Mind.
But I would never do you wrong.
Okay, another one that isn't that incredibly difficult to get hold of on vinyl because it was issued in 1992 and there was still some life in the vinyl industry back then, even though but from 1993 we're talking about really difficult to find original issues. But this is a record that I bought on CD back then, and I listened to it over and over again, and I thought it was so good. I still think it's a great album. And Vogue, Funky Divas, I think it is their second album. I heard the album they made before this and the one they made after this. The one they made after this I was never really keen on. I thought, well, it's like they got to their top here. They climbed. This was their top, and then they went downwards again. Yeah, really sexy and good album with Free Your Mind and Wanna Man, and giving him something he can feel and so on. Great group, great beat, very modern, very urban and enjoyable. And I was very happy to find it on vinyl. And this is an original.
No way. Maybe next time you give your woman a little respect, so you won't be hearing her say no way.
Another artist that I liked a lot when she had a big breakthrough in, was it 2000 or was it 99? It was around the millennium shift. Macy Gray. On How Life Is, with a big hit song I Try, and we have my favorite song, the final song, The Letter. Great album that I bought on CD back then. I played it a lot, but I haven't really listened that much to it in later years until I found it on vinyl. It's another one of these lovely reissues, and it's very nice that the artwork that was actually thought out for CDs back then, when you have it blown up like this into vinyl LP format, it looks even better. So, great album. Macy Gray on How Life Is on vinyl.
Next to my wishing well. Oh yeah, you gotta don't let the days of your life.
My favorite record of the 1990s, I've talked about it many times before, is Lauryn Hill's The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, that I of course bought on CD and played like a maniac. I was totally in love with that CD, and some years ago I got hold of this vinyl reissue. I couldn't really wait for her to make another album, and in 2002 she made the MTV Unplugged record, but she hasn't really done anything since then. I think that's such a pity, She's so talented, such a good singer, such a good songwriter, with such a great mind. I admire her a lot. I bought the Unplugged concert on CD and DVD back then. You may remember there was this was during the years when they tried to avoid people copying their CDs, so they had some sort of copy protection that made it impossible to play the CD on a computer. Not sure why, how it worked, but some were very where they said, well, this doesn't really qualify as a CD as it is. So there were lots of talk about that. But I never listened to CDs on my computer back then anyway. So, and now lately, last year, it was finally in my book reissued on vinyl, and I'm very happy about that because it's another great album. It's more sketchy, of course, than the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, which is a fully finished product. This is more like sketches, where she when she sings and accompanies herself on the acoustic guitar. So you don't really know whether they were supposed to be like that or whether she wanted to make later versions of them with full orchestra or whatever. But it works. It's very profound, it's very good, and thoughtful, and well, emotional at times. And very fun.
Everything after winter must come spring. Everything is everything. Anything, yeah. Anything.
Okay, another old favorite of mine from the 80s was Shane MacGowan, the singer of the Pogues. He was kicked out of the Pogues and started the group The Popes and made a CD called The Snake that I was very I think it was in 1994, 1995, and when I was around 1920 I listened to this all the time. I just love this raw Irish rock and roll punk, like and with this really well, horrible but lovely voice, and those wonderful songs, and like a continuation of the Pogues theme, but even rawer than the Pogues. And last year, oops, I managed to get hold of a vinyl reissue, a limited edition, numbered limited edition in green vinyl with a lovely textured sleeve. I don't know if you can see it, how nice the texture is, and wonderful sound, and was very happy to find it. And it's like I've been re-exploring these old favorites from the past, even though I've listened to them loads of times back in the 90s and noughties on CD. When I listen more to CDs, it's like exploring them and, well, finding out about them again now, but now on vinyl. Many did it the opposite way back then. They took their old vinyl favorites and re-explore them, and when they bought CD versions instead. But now it's the opposite.
With a lady proud and fair, no passion, we're seeing day we made fire.
Okay, I have two more records to show. This is a... Is it a origin? No, it's a reissue. It's a reissue from 2016, but it was originally issued in 1992. It's Vanessa Paradis, or Vanessa Paradis. It's her third album, I think, the one produced by Lenny Kravitz, and this was a CD that I listened to all the time back then, and like, well, most guys, more or less in love with her singing and her looks back then. Be My Baby, Sunday Mondays, Natural High, Waiting for the Man. Really good album, and I think it is her best album as an artist, although I haven't heard much of her later works. I have really only heard her three first albums. The first with Juliet, and the second that she did together with Serge Gainsbourg, and then this. I've showed it before in the channel as an example. I think I showed it when I found it on vinyl. This is another example of an old CD favorite now on vinyl. And the final record that I'm going to show you is a record originally bought on CD back in 2001. It's my big favorite Ron Sexsmith. It's his fourth album, Blue Boy, the one that's produced by Steve Earle and Ray Kennedy. This is a music on vinyl reissue from 2012, and when I heard about it, I thought, yes! I've been buying all Ron Sexsmith's albums on vinyl since 2006, 2008, something like that. And I so wish that I had all these early albums on vinyl. And when this turned up, I thought, yes, they're going to reissue his back catalogue on vinyl. But they didn't. They reissued this, and I think I've seen some... I've heard rumors that this next album that he made it the year after, I can't remember the name now, which is a bit of a bummer because it's one of my favorite albums. That had been reissued on vinyl as well, but I've never seen it, not in any stores or not anywhere online. But I really wish, please, record companies, please reissue Ron Sexsmith's back catalogue on vinyl. I'm quite sure it would be done sooner or later, but it's so worth it, and oh, I really would like that, because the last 7, 8, 9 years I've been buying all his records on vinyl, and it fits the format like all good music. So this video ends with a bit of a plea then to those who are in charge of those matters. Please, please, run Sexsmith on vinyl, please, please, please.
To get away when you
stepped out. She took the kids and drove far from that house. She told him this is our home for now. God bless this cheap hotel.
Right. Thank you for watching and good night.